All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning. Welcome. Court officer, can you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honors. This is case KSC BC 2020-04, Specialist Prosecutor versus Piotr Shala.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. I see that we are not completely in the same composition, at least two of the teams, so I will give the floor to tell us who's present.
Good morning, Your Honors. For the SPO, Line Pedersen, Federica Genovesi, Gaia Pergolo, and Filippo Dominicis.
Thank you. I see that Victims' Counsel is my guest today.
Your Honor, yes, Simon Laws for the victims in this case.
Defense Counsel.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I am Mr. Jelissen. We are here with Mr. Peter Shala, with Mr. Awini, Ms. Melissa McKay, Ms. Janeta Petrovica, Juliet Healy, and Judith Kolb. Thank you very much.
Shala, can you confirm that you hear me well, and good morning?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Today we will continue with the questioning by defense witness Mrs. Safata Hader Gojai. But before we do that, Defense Counsel, is there still an intervention we can expect from your client?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but you have to ask him to be sure. But last information I had was no intervention. Thank you very much.
Okay, but then we leave it there. Very well. If there are not any submissions, yes, the Specialist Prosecutor's
Very
Office.
briefly, I must apologize to the court because I submitted an email this morning as I thought I listed the wrong ERN, but with the assistance of my case manager, I realized that in fact there is no issue with the documents we listed in the list. So that email is no longer a standing request.
Okay, I was going to mention it in the next session, but it has been withdrawn. Very well. Any other submissions for the panel for now? No? Good. Madame Court-Usher, could you bring the witness in? Welcome back, Madame Witness. Can you hear me well?
You too, Jitan. Yes, thank you for having me here. Good morning.
Mr. Shala, can you hear the witness?
Yes, I can hear her very well.
Good, thank you. Madam Witness, how are you today?
So.
We are going to continue today with your examination. I remind you that you are still under oath to tell the truth. Do you understand that?
Certainly. I understand.
Very well. There are two observations I would like to make, Madam Witness. Yesterday, you repeatedly raised the issue that you did not understand why you are called to testify before this panel of judges. And for reasons of clarity, I repeat to you, as I did very briefly yesterday, that it is on the request of the defense for Mr. Shala, the accused in this case, to have you summoned here to come to testify when the defense did not manage to call you as a witness by itself. It was the defense assessment that you were of importance to the case of Mr. Shala. And the panel has granted the defense request because there is a likelihood that you may have information about either a crime or alleged perpetrators or important circumstances relevant to the criminal proceedings in the case against Mr. Shala. And that likelihood is up to the panel to assess and not to you. So it's your duty to come, as you did, and to answer the questions. And I hope that this is clear for you.
Your Honor, thank you very much for the explanation. And that is because I haven't had any contact with counsel, a meeting of some sort, and for me it was a real surprise to receive the invitation. So thank you very much for clarifying the matter. Now I understand. And I responded to the invitation as best I could, in a civil manner and in a legal manner as per the rules. And that is the reason why I came here and I am here.
And furthermore, thank you for this, Madam Witness. And furthermore, no, Mr. Shala, I'm talking now. You will not get the floor now. Please lower your hand. Yeah? You might get tired. There will be a moment that you will get the floor. Not now, because I'm talking. Furthermore, Madam Witness, with reference to yesterday, I recall that you should answer the questions posed to you and not to elaborate on other issues. I advise you to stay calm and not to raise your voice when answering the questions, and to remain respectful towards the persons who are posing the questions to you. Please behave in this courtroom. And I will not hesitate to intervene and to use the overrule button in order to prevent that what you say is heard outside the courtroom, is translated or recorded if you speak in that way. And I trust you understood me well. Before we proceed with the examination by Victims' Counsel, I will ask Mr. Shala what he wants to raise. Mr. Shala, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Just to explain something, Your Honor. Yes, it's It's not like my team, my counsel invited them, but the prosecution has involved her with false, fabricated declarations. So we are here just for the purposes of explanation. It's not as if we have invited her. We have invited her to clarify the statements that somebody else has made in the past, and therefore involved her, but not me, and neither has my counsel. Thank you. This is all I wanted to say, just to explain the situation further to your clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you for this intervention, Mr. Shala. Very well. Then we proceed. Victims' Counsel. We concluded with the cross-examination by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office, and now it's your turn. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Honour. And good morning to you, Madam Witness. I'm going to introduce myself to you. My name is Simon Laws, and I am the counsel who represents the victims in this case. I'm going to ask you first of all this question. Yesterday, you were asked if you had ever received training as a nurse, and that's the transcript from yesterday at page 78, line 11. I want to ask you a slightly different question. Have you ever learnt basic first aid?
Counsel, never in my life have I learned how to provide first aid, and neither do I know how to provide it. And I say this with the highest responsibility possible and under oath.
In your years as a teacher, were you ever taught any first aid?
No, never. I was a teacher of economics subjects, so I had nothing to do with anything related to health or medication or anything like that.
Would you be able to assist somebody with applying a bandage to an injury? No, I wouldn't be able to do that.
And even if I were to cut my finger, I would have to ask for help because I am too afraid to actually put a bandage around that. So no, I couldn't.
Really? You're telling us that you wouldn't know how to put a bandage on. Is that right? You'd have to ask for help even if you were just putting one on your own finger?
No. No, I don't know how to do that. I have never ever given anybody first aid, and never has anybody asked me to give them first aid, and people know I'm just an economist and have nothing to do with health or medication.
Have you ever seen anybody else put a bandage on an injury of any kind?
When I went to see the doctor because I had flu, there has been a case when I saw the doctor do that, but I have never been involved in a case like that to provide first aid. Nobody has asked for first aid of me, and I do not know how to give that first aid to anyone.
It looked very difficult to you when you saw the doctor put a bandage on someone.
I didn't even get close to the doctor at all because I went there for my own needs, not for that. I mean, in the post-war period, or when I go to the doctors now, for instance, I have nothing to do with this.
Very well. Do you know what village Time Kadria comes from?
To my knowledge, she lives in Dachan or Pristina. I do not know. She's an MP in the Kosovo parliament, and I do not know where her residence is.
Job or her residence. I asked you if you knew what village she comes from. Do you know what village she comes from?
To my knowledge, originally she comes from Rastavic.
That's right. And how far away is Rastovic from Voksh?
Council, I do not live in Voksh. I was born there, but I live in Dachan.
That you told us yesterday that you moved from Voksh to Dachan, I think when you were 10 or 11. I'm not asking you where you live, I'm asking you how far it is from Voksh to Rastovice.
To be honest, I cannot say precisely in terms of kilometers. I've never measured the distance, but they're not far.
I'm not asking you for a precise measurement, but is it 5 kilometers, 100 kilometers? Do your best.
No, it's not 100 kilometers, but perhaps 12, 13. But that's not even accurate. I mean, please do not quote me, as it were, because I've never measured it.
To quote you, I just want to know.
It wasn't really important to know, for one to know. I know that Dachan is after Prelep, Rastovica after that, but I never knew how many kilometers is in between all of these.
Rastovice, I'll give my learned friend the floor.
Defense counsel.
I don't think we have to ask the witness to guess. She says she don't know. She tried to provide an answer, in my opinion, in a very reasonable way, but not to guess, please. Thank you very much.
No, but she's not guessing. I think that for now we are talking about an estimated guess because I think that the question could have been answered already 5 minutes ago, but with one of the things she just said. I think that Madam Witness is making the Victims' Counsel insist a little bit more than necessary. But I leave the floor to Victims' Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honour. And from Rastovice to Dachan, it's also a short journey, isn't it? A few minutes in a car, let's say.
Yes, it is a short distance.
Do you know whether Time Kadria is going to give evidence in this case?
No. No.
I'm going to ask that we move into a private session just for a moment, and if I may, I'll explain the reason for that in the absence of this witness.
Well, Madam Court Officer, can you bring us into a private session, please?
Your Honours, we are now in private session.
And for the record, if I have said Madam Witness, I meant Madam Court Officer. Madam Court Officer, could you please usher the witness out for a moment? Madam Witness, you will be ushered out for a moment because we have to discuss something relating to the question. Thank you. Victims' Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honour. Well, I want to ask the witness some questions about her contact with Time Kadriye, and I respectfully submit that it's better to do that in private session, because clearly if the witness who's next is listening, then she'll know what's been said, and it would be unfortunate for her to hear the answers.
Thank you for this clarification. Madam Court Officer, can you ask the witness to be brought in again? Thank you. We will add some more minutes to, there will be some more minutes before the witness comes back.
Microphone.
With the question by Victims' Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honour. When did you last see Time Kadriye?
On TV during the sessions. Whereas in terms of meeting Tima, I think since the electoral campaign, that was the last time I saw her. So that is about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
When was the last time you had contact with her of any kind, by message or on Facebook or any similar means?
I cannot remember to have had a message, contact in Facebook, absolutely, because Tima and I belong to different political parties and nothing really brings us together.
Well, we can go back into public session now.
Madam Court Officer, can you bring us back into public session, please?
Your Honours, we are back in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Victims' Counsel, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honour. Madam Witness, yesterday, and I'm looking at page 99 of the provisional transcript starting at line 8, yesterday you said that in your view the charges brought against certain KLA members, including Kadri Vaseli, were politically motivated. And a little later, at the bottom of page 99 and into page 100, you said that these are all concocted by the Serbian police, bringing here false testimonies by witnesses. Do you recall saying those things yesterday, Madam Witness?
Po.
Yes.
When I introduced myself to you a few moments ago, I said that I was victims' counsel, and I want to ask you if you understand what my role is in this case.
Po.
Yes.
I am here to represent victims of crimes that occurred in Cookish. You understand that?
Këtë që e thua e kuptoj?
I understand what you just said, but I do not understand it to be that there were crimes in Kukas.
Jam e bindun që ato
I am convinced that there weren't any crimes there.
To ask you, how, according to you, how could there be victims if there were no crimes committed there? Can you explain your view of this?
unë nuk kam dieni.
I have no knowledge of victims there. At least I personally do not have such knowledge.
Do you think, Madam Witness, that that might be, at least in part, because, as you said yesterday, you haven't read the material in this case?
Unë ju kom thonë edhe
As I said yesterday, and let me say the same today, the materials of this case I will not read because they are stitched up allegations of the Serbian Secret Service, and I don't even want to read them. Sir, counsel, I am sitting here as a witness, and I am a victim of the Serbian genocide, state-run genocide, and yet nobody is dealing with my rights or my life. Nobody is protecting me. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Witness. Please proceed, Victims' Counsel.
Without reading anything to do with this case, how is it that you can reach the conclusion that you've just told us about?
unë arri në përfundim.
I reach the conclusion I have just stated because I have never heard from anyone that such things took place in Kukas, and I have the right to have my opinion based on that. That what you are saying, the place in Kukas, is, and the detention in Kukas is stitched up allegations of the Serbian secret police, and that's why I have no interest in hearing them, in listening to them, and I've never heard such a thing. And if I had heard such a thing from anyone, I would say it here sincerely and frankly, but I have not heard such a thing. I have no information that there was such a thing there. I will not hear this, and I do not read these types of hearsay of this court, which has really gone away from the purpose of its establishing.
In your professional life, as an economist, do you first try to look at the evidence and then form your conclusion? Or do you decide what your conclusion is without looking at the evidence?
Zoti avokat,
So, is there better and more powerful evidence than my being here today to give a statement, to be a witness for a place I have never been to and for a profession I have never had? Counsel, the question asked by the other counsel yesterday is really.
Madam Witness, please answer the question.
në rregull.
Okay.
or do you remember the question that I asked you?
Jó som kujtohet për
No, I do not remember. Please repeat it.
As an economist, do you first try to look at the evidence and then form your conclusion? Or do you decide what your conclusion is without looking at the evidence?
unë jam ekonomist.
I am an economist by profession, and I look at these things, and I'm specialized in this area. And of course, I look at details, and based on those, I reach conclusions in terms of budget. Whereas these stitched up allegations of the Serbian secret police, I never want to read because they bring me back to a very difficult time, and I feel extremely bad, just as I felt bad last night because it reminded me of the voices of the people who were being beaten up in the Serbian police station when I was held there, and therefore I couldn't sleep last night, Council. And these were perpetrated by the police of a dictatorial state who committed genocide. Do you understand that, Council?
Madam Witness,
Në rregull.
Okay.
I heard that you have felt very bad after yesterday's testimony because it brings you back into times you prefer not to remember, and we appreciate very much that you are here and that you are giving a testimony. But I repeat, please try to answer the questions that are put to you, because you are not here for any other purpose than to answer the questions put to you. And Victims' Council, you may proceed on this subject, but I think we are getting repetitions now.
I've finished with that topic. It's my last question.
Please, Your Honor. Yeah. I don't think we have to ask a witness to justify his own opinion, a good one, a bad one. That's the opinion of the witness. We know it. We have heard some explanation. We are convinced or not. But why to continue? I don't think it's in the spectrum of the thing we have to ask, even to try to understand the credibility. It's very clear. We know the position of the witness.
I will give the floor to Victims' Council, but positions can be questioned with arguments. So I really don't see a problem to that.
Okay.
But thank you for your submission. Victims' Council, you have the floor if you would like to reply to.
I would. Thank you.
Of course, please.
I strongly disagree with what's just been said by Defence Counsel. The people that I represent are not required to sit idly by and have somebody granted licence to deny the crimes that they have suffered. That's not justice. I'm here to represent them, and that's what I'm doing by asking these questions so that we can explore the position. And I have one last question which will, I hope, complete that topic.
Please proceed, Victims' Council.
Madam Witness, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you to listen to it and see if you can answer it, and do so preferably without raising your voice. And here's the question. Have you ever considered how hurtful it might be to people who suffered in Kukish, whose loved ones suffered or were killed there, to hear somebody say that it is all lies and all political? Have you ever considered how hurtful that might be?
A mund të përgjigjem?
May I answer?
Please do.
Unë kam bindjen e plot
I am fully convinced that there were no such cases in Kukës to have caused what you are saying, victims. I do not wish for Kosovo and in my free Kosovo to ever be victims. And I want for everything to come out to see the light of day. But I would never agree to the fact that somebody can become a victim based on lies. Or I could never agree that from Serbian secret services somebody can bear false witness. I could never agree to that. But for an entire people in Kosovo, we are victims of the Serbian genocide that was perpetrated there. And I do not want...
Question. You are not being translated anymore. You
Microphone, please.
I overruled you. The part has not been recorded.
në rregull, kërkoj falje.
Okay, apologies.
And I was asking you to answer questions and not to take the floor to say whatever you think you want to say, you need to say. This is not a place where you choose not to answer the questions. And it seems very difficult for you. Victims' Council.
Thank you. It's a simple question. You can answer it yes or no. Have you ever thought about how hurtful it might be for people to hear you say that it's all lies and that there are no victims? Have you ever thought about that? Yes or no?
Unë nuk di që ka
I do not know that there were any victims there.
I'll give you one last chance to answer it, and then I'm going to sit down. Have you ever thought how hurtful it might be for you to say these things and for them to be heard by real victims? Not asking you if they're real victims or not, I'm asking have you ever thought about it? Yes or no?
as që e kam mendu,
I have not even thought about it because I am convinced that that center is a fabrication of the Serbian secret police. I am sitting here on false witness statements. That's all I know.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Victims' Counsel. Thank you, Madam Witness. I turn to the Defense Counsel. Mr. Shilican, would you like to have a second round of questions? Yesterday you already informed me that you did not want to, but maybe there has been a change in your position.
Yes, thank you very much, but I don't want to go further. Thank you very much.
Very well. So then it stops here. Thank you. Then I will look to my colleagues. Madam Witness, there are also no questions from the side of the panel, and that means that we have reached the end of your testimony. I would like to thank you for your efforts you have put in giving your testimony before this panel. So thank you very much.
Faleminderit.
Thank you. Thank you. I am a little bit concerned that you didn't give me the floor to speak every time, but I understand that there are rules in this courtroom. I am a person who believes in institutions, who believes in justice. And you, as a panel of judges, I am convinced that you will not hear neither this nor that side, but you will assess the situation appropriately and you will bring the truth to light. And only the truth and you will render justice. And if there is justice in this court, that
Now it's
Dat
enough. No,
little
Madam
hat het
Witness, it's enough. I just wanted to wish you some safe travels. So you'll
Faleminderit.
thank you. Thank you.
that you shall not discuss the statement you have given before the specialist chambers with anyone. And I will now ask Madam Court Usher to usher you out of the courtroom.
A mund ta them edhe një gjë?
May I also say something else, please? For those.
No, no,
Okay.
no. It stops.
Okay.
Very well. It's now 10:15. What we will do is we will thank you, Madam Court Usher. We will have a break of 15 minutes and we will start then with the next witness, if that is also fine for the defense team. Yes, I see Mr. Gillison nodding, so very well. And then we proceed with our regular schedule till 11. We have a half an hour break and then we proceed during the day. Good. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise. All rise.
Please be seated. Welcome back. And let me see, are there any changes of composition at the side of the SPO?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Victims Counsel? No, thank you. Defense Counsel?
Exactly the same team.
Thank you. Very well, we will continue now, or I would rather say we will start with the testimony of witness 4440, which is Mrs. Time Kadriye. She will testify without in-court protective measures. And before I call the witness in, I would like to revert for a short moment into private session. Madam Court Officer, could you please bring us there?
Your Honors, we are now back in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Madam Court Usher, could you please usher the witness into the courtroom? Good afternoon, and welcome to the specialist chambers. Can you hear me?
Paul. Yes, I can.
Mr. Shala, good afternoon. Can you hear the witness?
Good afternoon. I can hear her very well. Thank you.
Madam Witness, today we will start with your testimony. It's still not clear to me why we had to revert to summons to ensure your presence in this courtroom. But anyway, here we are. And I would like to explain to you why you are called to testify before the panel of judges. It's on the request of the defense for Mr. Shala, the accused in this case, to have you summoned to come to testify when the defense did not manage to call you as a witness by itself. And the defense thought your testimony is of importance to the case, to the defense case of Mr. Shala. And the panel has granted the defense request because there's a likelihood that you may have information about the crime or alleged perpetrators and/or important circumstances relevant to the criminal proceedings in the case against Mr. Shala. And that likelihood is up to the panel to assess. And you have, as a witness, an obligation to come and to answer. And we are very happy that you are here today, now. And I hope that that is clear for you.
Thank you. It is, yes.
Before we begin with the questions we have for you, I have several remarks. And these remarks I make to all the witnesses. You are called, Madam Witness, to testify before the specialist chambers in the case of the Specialist Prosecutor's Office against Mr. Peter Shala, to assist the panel of judges to reach a verdict. First, you will take your solemn declaration to tell the truth. And then you will be asked questions, first by the defense counsel for Mr. Shala, then the lawyers for the Specialist Prosecutor's Office. They have the robes partly in purple. The lawyer representing the victims participating in this case. Yes, you're looking in the right direction. And then by us, the judges of the panel. And before you take your solemn declaration, I would like to provide you with some guidance and some practical remarks that may assist you in giving your testimony. Madam Witness, please, listen carefully to each question. If you don't understand, feel free to ask the question to be repeated. We want you to tell the truth, to tell us what you saw, what you heard, what you experienced yourself. If you saw or hear or experienced something not by yourself, please tell us so. You may not remember all the details of the events, and that is perfectly fine. Please testify only on what you remember. Do not guess. Do not make things up. There's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know. Yes? Please only answer the questions put to you. And if more clarification is needed, there will be some follow-up questions. And I also remind you that you have the right to object to provide your testimony on issues that might tend to incriminate you pursuant to Rule 151, Paragraph 1 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. Have you understood all this?
Paul. Yes, I have.
Regarding the practical advice for your testimony, please listen carefully. Everything we say here is translated and recorded. So it's very important that you speak into the 2 microphones in front of you, yeah? That you speak at a slow pace and that you speak clearly. Yeah? That will allow the interpreters and the stenographer to interpret it and record everything. You should only start speaking after the person who was speaking to you has finalized. And therefore it's useful to count till 5, for example, and then start speaking. And I see you laughing, but it's really important, because if not, we have overlapping speakers, and if you might have been following these procedures, you see that when there are overlapping speakers, nothing is recorded nor translated. So, very well. If I raise my hand, yeah, like this, please stop talking. The reason that I raise my hand is to avoid that we overlap each other. Yeah? But sometimes if the hand doesn't work, I have to speak out, and then we have overlapping speakers, and then you will not be interpreted. Me neither. You may be asked to make markings on a document, and there is a pencil next to the computer, and Madame Court Clerk has now shown it to you, and we will see if it will be necessary. And lastly, if you have any questions, if you need a break or you need assistance of any kind, please raise your hand and I will give you the floor. Have you understood all this?
Yes, I have, thank you.
Very well. Now, like I have to do with all the witnesses, I will now ask you to make your solemn declaration to tell the truth. I remind you, Madam Witness, that it is an offense to give a false declaration before this court. Have you understood that?
Yes.
Clerk, please assist the witness with the text. Madam Witness, you may read the text provided to you.
Conscious of the significance of my testimony and my legal responsibility, I solemnly declare that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that I shall not withhold anything which has come to my knowledge.
Thank you. Madam Witness, you are now under oath to tell the truth. Madam Court Officer, could you bring us into private session, please?
Your Honors, we are in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Madam Witness, we can now begin with your testimony, starting with the questioning by Defense Counsel. Defense Counsel, you have 1.5 hours for your questioning of this witness, and please inform the panel if there are any changes for our planning purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's sure, I will. So good afternoon, Mrs. Witness. So as you know, I'm the Shala's Defense Counsel, and I would like to address with you some issue and to ask some questions to obtain a maximum of information from you, as Mrs. President Judge told you, don't guess, only very clear and sure information. Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Witness, could you please state your name and surname?
Time Kadriai.
Thank you very much. What are your date and place of birth?
14th February 1965, Rastavica village, Dechan municipality.
Do you have or did you have a nickname?
Yo. No.
I would like to know what level of education did you have?
Superior. Higher education.
Yes, what does it mean? What kind of education?
I have a degree in medicine. I'm a general practitioner, and then I specialized in gynecology.
Yes. And what is your current profession?
I'm member of parliament in the Parliament of the Republic of Kosovo.
I ask you, which party do you belong to?
Alleanza për Ardhmërinë e Kosovës. The Alliance for the Future of Kosovo, AAK.
Okay, thank you very much. And are you able enough to explain us who create this party?
Ramush Haradinaj.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. So, Mrs. Witness, when did you live before the beginning of the war in 1998?
In my birthplace, in Rastavic village.
Working at this time?
I have completed the Faculty of Medicine in 1996, and at the time, since the institutions were closed down, both educational and health ones, I worked as a junior doctor with the humanitarian organization Mother Teresa.
Thank you very much. Oh, in 1999, did you join the KLA?
Yes.
Did you join the KLA?
I joined the KLA in 1998.
Do you remember the months you joined the KLA?
March, April, perhaps April, I'm not quite sure.
Oh, may I ask you, why did you join the KLA?
Because of the then repressive regime and following the events with the Ashari family, a great number of citizens mobilized themselves into the Kosovo Liberation Army.
Clear. Thank you very much. Mrs. Witness, what was your job with the KLA in your village in Dukan municipality in 1998?
Mieke.
Doctor.
Yes, thank you very much. And could you explain concretely what was the situation and with the people you have to provide some medical care at this moment? What was the organization? How does it work? How did it work?
Për shkak të përhapjes së luftës në të gjitha.
As the war spread throughout Kosovo, supplies of medicine got difficult. Everybody contributed in their own ways, every villager. I did so in my own village. So everybody who had medicaments, we all gathered them in one point, in one house.
Thank you. And at this moment, did you receive any training or any help from the KLA in your job of doctor?
Jo, me qenë se unë.
No, since I was a doctor, I worked with Mother Teresa for a certain time, and then automatically I started working as a doctor in my birthplace.
Thank you very much. It's very clear. Really, thank you. So I would like to know, did you leave the Kosovo at any moment in 1998 or 1999?
Në dikon shtator, tetor.
Sometime in September, October 1998, I left Kosovo.
Yeah. And are you able enough to explain what was the trip you made? Where did you go at this moment?
Për shkak të ofenziva.
Because of the offensives, we were forced to flee, and the road we followed was Rugova, which is a mountain. Then we went on to Montenegro in Urchin, and ultimately to Durrës, where part of my family was already staying.
Yes. And did you stay in Durrës for the rest of the war?
Jo.
No.
Mobilizimin e kam bërë.
Following my mobilization was in Koshar, Papay, Padesh, and in Koshar.
When did you arrive in Koshar?
Ka qenë fillimet ndoshta.
It was in early 1999, I would say.
Yeah. And did you have a duty in Koshar, or what did you do in Koshar?
Mjeke kam qenë.
I was a doctor.
Were you ever involved in fighting or active in the hostility as KLA member?
Në Koshare kanë qenë.
In Koshare, there were also medical teams, and they were in the front lines because of the terrain. There wasn't a hospital, and the medical team was also mobilized to go wherever the need arose, or wherever there was a wounded person, we would go there to help out.
Yes. And what kind of medical treatment did you provide in Koshar?
Ndihmën e parë mjekësore.
First aid. So basically stopping the blood and first aid, and then the wounded we would transport to Baranzure, a city in Albania.
Where did you stay in Koshar?
Fillimi ka qenë në po.
In the beginning, it was in Papai, which is a bit further out. Before the frontal war on the 9th of April, we stayed in Papai. And with the onset of the frontal war, we then came closer to Padesh, which is in the border.
Thank you very much. I would like to know, how was the Kaili medical staff organized in Albania in 1999? Did they form a specific unit?
Unë muj me folë veç.
Well, I can only really say and talk about this because there was a group of doctors and we worked as a medical team together. I do not know as to whether there was a unit or a name as such, but we were a team of doctors.
Did you have a superior, a director or something like that?
Në tonë të drejtën kem funksion.
To be honest, we worked as a team. It wasn't as if there was anybody in charge of us.
Thank you. And what was the situation for the Kosovian civil population in Albania in 1999?
Po, unë nuk e di.
Well, I don't know. I stayed there from the beginning to the end of the war. And in actual fact, there were only a few civilians who stayed in Paranzur or around, but there were Albanian civilians who stayed in their own homes in Papai and Padesh.
And would you say it was an organized work environment or process in Koshar? It was very organized. How does it work? It's interesting to us to understand.
I think, I think Defense Counsel, you should clarify what you're aiming at, because now it's a kind of, at least for me, it's vague what you want to elicit from the witness.
We understand what was her job, and I would like to understand the environment, the organization. It was very organized or not. I understand they worked in a team, but how does it work? The next question is, how many persons did you treat per day?
Let us proceed with more concrete questions, and then based on the more concrete questions we can go to something a little bit more broader.
Okay. Okay. Sure, thank you. So I'm sorry. So according to you, and if you remember, of course, how many patients would you usually treat within a day at this moment?
Well, that's dependent on the dynamics of the war. I mean, one cannot really pinpoint the number of patients per day, because some days there were more because of the intensity of the war, and some other days a fewer number. So I can't really remember that.
And did you ever go other places outside Koshar to treat persons?
Jo.
No. Because I was mobilized in Koshar, I stayed in Koshar, and it was from Koshar that I returned to Kosovo after the liberation.
That's very clear, thank you very much. And did you ever go to another KLA base in Albania for your work?
I didn't have another job. My task was to serve and to undertake my mission as a doctor, as a humanist, to serve the wounded, the soldiers, but also the population around. So we didn't move from Koshar.
To insist, of course, did you ever go to Cooks for your work in 1999?
Ons compost non i punt
I didn't have another job. My task was to serve the soldiers, and I was assigned to serve in Koshar for this job. That's where I started, and that's where I ended my service.
Yeah. Now, it's not so clear for
No,
me.
I could be more accurate.
Yes,
Yeah,
because we
don't
did
mind.
not really receive an answer with a yes or a no.
That's why I insist.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I would like to go on the bone, may I say.
well.
Yeah, yeah. So, and did you ever go to Cooks for other purposes than works in 1999? Did you go even one time to Cooks in 1999?
Jo.
Oh,
Do you know, or did you know, a person called Milaim Zeka?
Milaim
Milayim, I do know him because he was in Koshara.
Yeah, and he was he in Koshar in May 1999?
Nuk muj me marr
I can't remember accurately, I mean, the dates, but he was there. He was in Koshara, but the dates I cannot, I mean, the number of days I cannot remember.
Understand it's far ago, huh? more than 20 years, I fully understand. But do you remember a person called Nazim Haradinaye?
po.
Yes.
Did you ever meet him in May 1999 in Albania?
Nasimi ka qenë koshare.
Nasim was in Koshara. I met him in Koshara.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Witness. We heard evidence that you would have a visit in the Kaile Center in Cooks at a former metal factory in May 1999. And according to this evidence, you took Cooks together with Milan Zeka, who was injured, in order to provide him with medical assistance, and Nazim Aradinai too. After Milan Zeka received medical assistance at the Cook City Hospital, the three of you went, according to this evidence, for lunch with friends at the Cook's Metal Factory around lunchtime for no more than 2 hours. Could you please comment on this?
Jo, nuk qëndron, Milaim
No, that's not right. Milaim Zeka was wounded in Koshara, and first aid he received in Koshara.
According to you, if I understand, this information is a mistake or something don't corresponding to that don't correspond to the truth.
Nuk ka asgjë reale.
There's nothing true. The truth is Milaim Zeka was wounded in Koshara at the Karauli of Koshara, and Milaim Zeka received first aid from the medical team there.
They stay in Koshar, or do you have information for the rest of the following events about their treatment, their medical treatment?
Nuk kam informacione.
I do not have information because we stayed there, and as I said, when there were wounded individuals, they received the first aid in Koshara or in Papai, Padesh, and it was later, in accordance with every single case, that they would be sent to Baramtsuri Hospital.
Which I think it's very clear. For me, it's very clear. So, Mrs. Witness, we would like to show you some picture for identification purpose, with the leave of the panel, of course.
Please proceed.
Yeah, and I would like to go to private session to make it.
Very well. Madam Court Officer, can you bring us into private session, please?
Your Honors, we're now in private session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Defense Counsel, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Oh, could we please display ERN 059 113-059144 at page 15 on the screen?
Please proceed, Madam Court Officer. Defense Counsel,
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Madam Witness, would you like to have a break now?
Jo, vazhdojmë.
No, we can continue.
Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm waiting. Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Court Officer. Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Witness, do you know this person? Did you ever seen this person you are seeing on the screen?
Jo, asnjëherë.
No, never.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's over with the private session, Your Honor.
Madam Court Officer, can you bring us back into public session, please?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Defense Counsel, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Witness, do you know a person named Safete Hadergonash? I'm sorry for the accent.
Safete
Albanian-
Hadergojai.
Yeah, Hadergojai, yeah.
Po,
Yes.
Explains the kind of relation or relationship you have with this woman?
jemi prej një qytet.
We come from the same place, the same town, and to be honest, we have a good rapport, mostly because we were both MPs, and it was really after the war that we cooperated with each other when serving in the Assembly as MPs.
Thank you very much. Did you ever work together in quality of doctor, nurse, somewhere?
Kur,
Never, because Safet is not a doctor, and I've never seen her during the war.
Really, that's very helpful. So, do you know a person called Ramush Haradinaj?
po,
Yes.
Under what circumstances did you meet him?
98,
In 1998, in the war, he was a distinguished soldier.
Yeah, and did you see him in Albania in 1999?
kur,
Never. Ramosh was not in Albania, not ever.
That's very clear, thank you. If you want to add something, really don't hesitate. No? Thank you. Do you know a person called Daud Haradinaj?
po,
Yes.
Did this person was in Albania in 1999? Did you see this person in Albania?
kur.
Never.
Thank you very much. I would like to know if you know a person called Agron Haradinaj.
Po,
Yes.
Did you see him in Albania in 1999?
në Koshare.
In Koshara.
In which circumstances?
Koshare ka qenë.
It was in Koshara. Ordinary circumstances, like people bump into the street with each other, not other circumstances.
Thank you very much. And do you know a person called Shape Musai?
A mundeni me
Could you please repeat the name again? Who was it?
It's a good one. Shape Musai.
Shaib Musai?
Shaib Musai? I don't know anyone by that name.
And I would like to know, do you know or did you know a person named Peter Shala during this year of 1998 and 1999, or 1999?
Jo.
No.
And did you know a person nicknamed Ushku during this moment?
Jo.
No.
Thank you very much. I have really to thank you. That's over for me. It was very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Johanna.
Microphone, please.
Finished your examination in chief of the witness. Then it's the turn for the specialist prosecutor's office, which will be in a position to start right away. I'm going to count. We started at past. Yeah. We can also take a short break and then proceed. You have the floor, Mr. Prosecutor.
Your Honors, we could take a short break before starting.
Yes, I think that we will proceed in that way also for other reasons. Very well. Madam Witness, we will take a short break of 15 minutes. Yes. I will ask Madam Court Clerk to usher you out, and then we see you back and we will continue with the cross-examination by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office.
Faleminderit.
Thank you.
Thank you. We see each other in 15 minutes.
All rise. All rise.
Please be seated. Welcome back. I see that the SPO is in the same composition, goes also for Victims' Counsel, and thank you, Defense Counsel, for nodding and confirming that you're there. I see Mr. Shala on the video connection. Can you hear me, Mr. Shala? You're not. Very well noted.
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay. Yes, we go into private session for a moment. Please, Madam Court Officer.
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you. Before we usher the witness in, and I will repeat partly what I've said in private session, I note that the defense has formulated an objection to the use of 3 documents with the witness 440 by the SPO during its cross-examination. These are items 14, 15, and 16 on the SPO's presentation queue, and the defense main objection is lack of authenticity indicia. This email was received last evening at 21:29. Yes, Mr. Prosecutor, what is your reaction to this objection?
Yes, Your Honors, we disagree with the defense objection on the initial reliability of these documents. Document number 14, just for clarity, I'll give the ERN as well, SPOE 000-845-000-12849, contains, in fact, numerous indicia of reliability. The case number, the location and date where the interview was carried out, the names of the police officers who carried out the interview, as well as very specific personal details of the person whose interview is recorded. Document 16 is a signed official note by a former SPO prosecutor concerning reception of a number of documents from the SPRK office in Kosovo, including these documents. Finally, Your Honors, the standards referred to by the defense is a standard which is generally used for, is applicable pursuant to Rule 138 to the admission of documents in evidence. Doesn't necessarily apply the same to the use of these documents, which in fact the reliability of the document can become apparent through the use of the document with the witness. And for instance, one of the gentlemen recorded in this conversation is a person whom the witness testified she knows this morning at trial. So this person talking about this witness is the reliability of the information is somewhat corroborated by what the witness stated today. But be that as it may, Your Honors, on its face, the documents that we want to use contain a number of indicia of reliability which make them absolutely suitable for discussion with this witness at this time.
Your Honor, we have nothing to add. Thank you.
Yes, defense counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our main arguments remain the same. We said is...
But then I don't want a repetition,
No.
so I only want a rebuttal to what is new.
Absolutely, Your Honor. And what we are saying is there is no indicia of authenticity. We are reserved, and we have to put things in context. The first document, number 14, is where the CD, which is explained and the content of which is number 15, is received. That document has numbers, has names. We can put even my name there, but there is no signatures. And we asked our colleagues, do you have an original, another version that contains signatures? And we have an issue from the past investigations that Your Honors are very well aware of. The number 16 that the SPO received it from ULEX is not a problem, but it is a consequence of, by ricochet, a consequence that it becomes not valid. Why should we use it if we don't know where the CD comes from? Because there is no signatures in the document that supposedly tells us that this is where the CD was obtained. And this is what we say. We're not addressing the admissibility discussion. We are saying that this is so deficient, Your Honor, that it cannot be fit to be used in judicial proceedings. That being said, Your Honor, and again to be consistent in our approach as well, we don't oppose that the prosecutor uses information. They said the witness probably knows one individual. They can ask, they can submit. If they have an evidentiary basis for them to ask a question to a witness about certain facts, they can do it. But this witness is not the originator of these documents for him or her to give authenticity or reliability. So if they want to give reliability to the content of number 15, they should call the person who recorded this or the person who was speaking. And we know, we have the names, but not this witness. They can ask him or ask her here, do you know about this? Have you heard about this? This happened? We're perfectly fine with that. It's their right. But not to put this document as if this is an official document coming from official activities of officials, and then put it to her in a way that she doesn't know. She can comment on the information, not on these documents. So the use of the documents is what we object to in the process of cross-examination for the reasons that are, in our submission, very valid. There is no signature, and we didn't want to make the objection on the air. We asked prior to our objection our colleagues to search. Maybe there is an Albanian version of it, maybe there is a version with signatures, and only after we received the response that we formulated our objection. Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Very well, noted. Good. Yes, Defense Counsel, we see it differently. I note that your objection is mostly about authenticity, and it's not about the relevance of these items. And we find these items for now relevant, and we will allow to use them. And as regard to your specific objections to authenticity, and you're saying that they are so deficient that you cannot use them in a judicial procedure in any way, these you can formulate them in writing if and when the SPO choose to tender these items for admission in evidence. And then the SPO will have an opportunity to reply. But with regard to the assessment of these items into admissibility, we will make a holistic assessment with regard to the authenticity, because that's something that has to be seen holistically, not on a case-by-case basis. Because what on the face value can look not authentic can become very authentic, seen with different other items, but we have to see that. So we reject your opposition to the use of these documents. Now we will continue with the cross-examination of Mr. Kadriai by the SPO. And, I will leave it for here, but also at face value, we don't see a problem with the authenticity. Let us say that. Very well. Madame Court Officer, could you ask, Madame Court Usher, could you please bring the witness in? Welcome back, Madam Witness. Can you hear me fine?
Oh,
Yes, I can.
Shala, did you hear the answer of the witness?
Yes, I did hear it very well.
And we continue, Madam Witness, with the cross-examination by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office on your left-hand side, and I will give Mr. Prosecutor now the floor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kadriai. Your Honors, as I would like to ask the witness further questions about her personal details and that of some family members, I think I would prefer to do this in private session for the protection of the privacy of the individuals involved.
Very well. Madam Court Officer, can you bring us into private session?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Please proceed, Mr. Prosecutor.
Ms. Kadri, today you testified that in 1999 you never went to the town of Kukës in Albania. This is at page 38. Is that correct?
Po.
Yes, correct.
Never, ever went to Kukës in that year.
Po.
Yes, I am certain.
Work, just perhaps a visit. You're certain.
S'kam qenë.
I've not been there.
Were you aware of the existence of a KLA recruitment center in Kukës in 1999 as you were working in Koshar?
Jo.
No.
So throughout the time that you were working in Koshar, you never learned that there was a mobilization center of the KLA in the town of Kukës in Albania. Is that correct? You never heard a word of it.
Asnjëherë.
Never.
Now, today you've been asked if you, in 1999, where you were, and you told us that you were in Koshar, working as a doctor there. Is that correct?
Po.
Yes.
Stayed to the soldiers on the front, and I can imagine there was much need for that.
Po.
Yes.
testified that you knew the journalist. Well, you didn't say he was a journalist. I got a little ahead of myself. But a person named Milan Zeka, who was in Koshar, though you could not remember the date. Correct?
Paul.
Yes.
You also testified that he was in fact wounded. This was at page 38 and 39 of the transcript. He was wounded when he was in Koshar. Is that correct?
Paul.
Yes.
Maybe a long shot because a long time has passed, but do you recall the date when Milan Zeka was wounded in Koshar?
Yo.
No, I don't.
I understand because that it may be difficult. You probably provided care to a number of people at the time, but Your Honors, may I try to refresh the witness memory with regard to this date by using the testimony of Milan Zeka himself, who was a defense witness in the Sabigezi trial and talked about this incident.
Yes, you may.
Very well.
I saw defense counsel standing and then sitting again, but I could not, it was not clear for me what you wanted to do.
To object to that, Your Honor.
But do you object, because you sat down again?
Yes, it was to object, but I heard Your Honor, yeah. Our objection, if we can place it, is that it's not a refreshment of memory if we use the statement of another witness in another proceeding, so we don't see. If they want to elicit evidence from Milan Zeka, let them call him.
Defense counsel, I see your point, and the panel is mindful of the principle of orality, and the panel also knows the rules of procedure on this, and of course that we have special procedures in place to admit written statements instead of having a testimony here in court. And we will take this into account when weighing the evidence. And we have done something similar in decision 714. And there we also said that the panel will not rely on these statements for any other purposes than those for which they were used with the witness in court. So we are mindful with what you're saying. So you may proceed.
Yes. If I could please on the screen SITF 000-16-056 to 000-16-103 red, page 15, and I believe that should be number 8, if not in our presentation queue, Your Honors.
Madam Court Officer, please proceed.
If we could scroll a bit down, further down. Yes, that question, well, it's actually an answer, but it's recorded wrongly as question number 58. Milan Zeka is asked if it's in English, I'm afraid, but the interpreter will translate it for you. Milan Zeka is asked whether he recalled when he was wounded, and he answered, I think that every person remembers some particular moments in his life. For example, when arrested or when one gets wounded. It was the 20th of May at 8:30 in the morning or 8:40 in the morning. And I'm done with this document for now, Your Honors.
Madam Court Officer, you can pull the document down.
Does this refresh your memory as when this wounding may have happened, Ms. Kadriye? The 20th of May in the morning, 8:30, 8:40. Do you recall that?
No, come kujtohet.
I do not recall that. I wasn't the only doctor in Koszare to know everything.
Now, this morning you also testified that Mr. Zeka, after being wounded, received first aid there. And it's, again, at pages 38 and 39 of the provisional transcript. Did you personally provide first aid to Mr. Zeka?
Kapas sulme med
There were attacks with shells, that's shelling, and I don't know which one of us administered first aid.
Do you recall administering first aid to Mr. Zeka?
nuk më kujtohet.
I don't recall.
Well, now, do you remember what kind of wounds Mr. Zeka had received from this shelling that you just talked about?
Nuk më kujtohet.
I don't recall.
Do you recall if he was taken to a hospital after receiving first aid care on the ground?
Prej Kushares ku shkoj.
We did not have information as to where they were taken after Koszare. Most of them were taken to Bayram Thuri, but we did not have information.
But do you remember, do you recall if he was in fact taken to a hospital afterwards?
Jo.
No, I don't.
Remember that he was wounded. Remember he was wounded by a shelling, but you can't recall whether it was you who administered first aid or whether you don't remember what kind of wounds he received, and you don't remember whether he later was taken to a hospital, correct?
Jo.
No.
Well, Milan Zeka, in his testimony in the trial, was a defense witness for Sabit Getzi in his trial, and he testified that he was in fact taken to a hospital in Kukës. Does that refresh? And this can be found at the same page, the same document we called earlier on, Your Honors. Does this refresh your recollection to any extent as to whether Milan Zeka was in fact taken to a hospital?
Jo, s'm kujtohet.
No, I don't recall that.
Did you go with Milan Zeka and the team of people that took him to a hospital after he was wounded? Did you travel with him anywhere?
Jo.
No.
You see, I'm asking because we've heard testimony in this trial of a former logistics officer of the KLA, Mr. Mark Shala. Are you familiar with Mr. Mark Shala? Do you know him?
And ja.
I do.
Mr. Mark Shala testified, and this is to be found in the transcript of the 23rd of October, pages 2937 to 2942, that he was aware that at some point Koszar was bombed and Milan Zeka was wounded. He was brought to Kukës for treatment. So Mark Shala knew that. Milan Zeka testified that he was taken to Kukës for treatment as well. Mark Shala testified, and he seemed to have a pretty good recollection of that he saw you at the Kukës metal factory together with Milan Zekai and Nassim Haradinaj, who you testified earlier today is a person you know and was himself stationed in Koshar. You had lunch together, lasted maybe 1.5 hours. Defense counsel put that proposition to you. And that this happened at some point in May. We've seen that the accident happened on the 20th, so it must have happened around that time. Now, this refresh your recollection as to whether, in fact, at least once, you went to Kukës in 1999 with persons you knew on the occasion of a wounding that you yourself recall. Does this refresh your recollection? Think carefully.
Nuk kam qenë.
I wasn't. We were doctors on the very first front lines. Our duty was to provide first aid on the spot.
My problem here is that a person who I see no reason he would have to, for which he would have to lie on this matter, provided very specific details to this panel about the lunch he had with you. And you see, what he told us is, he told us that you were having lunch with people you knew.
Nuk qëndron ajo. Markun komu.
This is not true. I could have come across Mark in Papai, in Padesh, in Kosovo, in general, but not in Kukës.
What he said and the details that he provided. He didn't put you there with some people that you don't know. Put you there with Nassim Haradinaj, whom you knew, was stationed in Koshar with you, Milan Zeka, who you knew, you yourself testified, in fact, he was wounded, and Mark Shala, he seemed pretty confident that he had lunch with you in Kukës. So are you saying that Mark Shala, in fact, was lying when he said, when he testified under oath, that he saw you in Kukës having lunch on that day with Milan Zeka and Nassim Haradinaj? And I remind you, you are under oath, ma'am.
E kuptoj, po.
I understand that, but I will repeat, as doctors, we were on the front line, and whenever a soldier would get wounded, we would provide help, but we could not accompany each and every soldier to hospitals. I was not in Kukës, I did not have lunch with Mark. Maybe I met Mark somewhere else, but not in Kukës.
Very well.
Mr. Prosecutor, before you proceed, I have a question for Madam Witness. Okay. Are your headphone now better? Madam Court should try to assist you with that. The second point is, are you able to proceed another 45 minutes till 4 o'clock?
Yes, I am.
We'll proceed accordingly, and if there is any issue, you just raise your hand, and then we will see how to proceed. Okay? Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yes. Now, you testified earlier that you knew Mr. Nassim Haradinaj, who was stationed in Koshar with you. And I wanted to ask you, can you tell us what Mr. Haradinaj's role was at the time in Koshar?
I know what my role was, that I was a doctor, but in terms of hierarchy and who was in Koshara, I do not know.
You
Defense counsel, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, and I'm a little bit late, but we need to correct something. My learned colleague, we have two issues with one of the law.
Witness be present, because I can foresee that we might go into content.
The content of one of the questions.
Yes,
with
but then
reference-
I prefer to have the witness not here. It's as easy as that. Madame Court-Usher, could you please accompany the witness out of the courtroom? Madame Witness, you will be ushered out for a moment, and then we can discuss something. Thank you. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. My learned colleague at page 64, in composing his question, was pressing the witness whether she had lunch with Mark Shala. And Mark Shala didn't say that he had lunch with Time Kadria. He said that he saw her on an occasion when she and other people came there to have lunch. That doesn't mean that he had lunch with her at that time. That's the first point. And the second point, Your Honor, and we have to be very careful.
Sorry, Defense Counsel, I would like to have the reference for that, because we are going to put this on record, your remark, and it's very important to be precise in order to retrieve it.
Thank you, Your Honor. The question of Mr. Dominicis starts at...
No, I'm not what his question was. Sorry for not being clear.
I'll give you two.
Where Mr. Shala said it in the transcript.
I was about to give you both transcript references.
Good,
So the
good,
question is ends at page 64, line 5 for the SPO, and the reference for Mark Shala's testimony is at page 2939 at lines 12 to 14. I can read it if you wish, Your Honor.
Please, if you read it, then it's also in this transcript.
Well, there must have been people that they knew, and they just came there to visit them and to have lunch with them. And we can read the whole portions. It's not that Mark shot. It is a question from Your Honor. He was wounded, you say, and then why would he go there if he was wounded in order to have lunch? And, well, he was only lightly injured, so he had some wounds on the arm. If we go through, Your Honor, we're moving on other details.
Okay, but then I thought there was something still relevant to the specific point you wanted to make. But if there's nothing on the lunch, then no need to read it out.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
No, you will get the floor, of course.
Thank you.
And
Of course.
quickly, just the second point. If the witness disagrees with what my learned colleague is putting to her, we should not push her to say, where you are saying that Mark Shala is lying. There is multiple explanation in the word for discrepancy, especially if I place any of my colleague in a place with people that he knows, that doesn't make it more credible that if I place him in a place with people he doesn't know. He was there or he was not there.
I understand you well. You're objecting to the word lying.
Yes,
no, but
because
get it succinct,
is
Defense
that.
Counsel, because we are professionals in this world. So your point is, you would have preferred another word than lying in this respect, because you think that she was, what would be the word, misleaded? What?
We're objecting to the formulation of the question.
Okay, but that's
put in
clear.
as lying, because there are different explanations to that. So.
Okay, but that it suffices that you inform us of that. Very
Thank you,
well.
Your
I will
Honors.
give the floor to Mr. Prosecutor.
Yes, Honors, page 2938 of the transcript, lines 9 to 12. Actually, I'll read from line 5, the question. Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now I have two follow-ups, just for clarity. You mentioned the event in which Time Kadria accompanied the journalist and they made their way to the building. How long did this event last in total? I think it was around lunchtime. It was a very hot day. It was at lunchtime. That's where they also had lunch, and I was with them. So it was for about 1.5 hours, 2 hours at the most, no more than that. That's the basis for our question, Your Honor.
Okay, that is the first point. So I trust that the defense is satisfied that on this point, oh yeah, he said something more on a different place in the transcript. Could you agree on that, defense counsel?
We gladly concede that, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Then the second point, there was an objection made to the formulation.
Your Honor, I'm entitled to put that proposition to the witness.
Yes, that would be my position too, so that one is overruled. Then we can bring back Madame Witness. Yes, thank you. Welcome back, Madam Witness, and thank you for your patience, this going in and out. We cannot do it differently. Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor.
So, before you left, I asked you if you recall what role Mr. Nassim Haradinaj had in Koshar. You said you didn't know, but I'm not asking you the specific details, but was he a simple soldier? Was he a commander of some soldiers? Do you know anything about it?
Kapos hierarchy in Koshar.
There was hierarchy in Koshar, and the commander, I do not know, all the roles of each and every one, I do not know.
So you have no idea what role Mr. Haradinaj had at the time, whether he was in fact the commander or not?
You.
No.
No. Did you know, how would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Haradinaj at the time in 1999? Was he just a mere acquaintance of yours, or did you know him well?
I knew him.
That was not the question of Mr. Prosecutor. The question was what type. No, let me finish. You know our rule that we don't want to have overlapping speakers. The question was if you knew him well. If you say I knew him, it's still vague for us. I still don't know what you mean with that. So I'm here only to gather information. So please.
Your Honor, in fact, may I suggest that we move into private session for this? Because, in fact, may I explain in private?
Yes, you may. Good. Madame Court Officer, can you bring us into a private session, please?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Very well. Mr. Shala has left the room from which he is participating to this proceedings. The court will adjourn for a short moment to see how to proceed. Hearing is adjourned.
All rise. All rise.
Please be seated. Welcome back. I see that Mr. Shala is also present. Can you hear me, Mr. Shala? I see that you nod. We put that on record. And you confirmed that you can hear me. We will continue now till 4:30. That we have been...
I can hear you, yes.
Mr. Shala. Before I usher the witness in, Mr. Shala, I officially warn you that if you show disruptive conduct, and like I was saying, I'm warning you, you may be removed also from the video link, and you will be allowed to follow these proceedings from another location where you cannot talk directly to the panel, and then you will be represented here by your specialist counsels. So please take good notice of that. And for next time, please watch your language. Madam Court Officer, can you please ask Madam Court Usher to bring the witness in? And Mr. Prosecutor, we are now in public session, and when we were proceeding before this, we were in private. Madam Witness, welcome back. We will proceed for another 15 minutes with the examination by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office. Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yours, can we please move back into private session?
Yes, we may. Madam Court Officer, can you please bring us into private session, please?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you. Madam Witness, we will resume tomorrow with the hearing at 9:30. Yes. I hope you can take a good rest this evening, and then we see you back tomorrow morning. Please refrain from discussing your interview with anybody. So.
Thank you.
Very well. Tomorrow we see each other back in court at 9:30. And before we adjourn, is there anything you would like to raise with us, Special Prosecutor's Office?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Victims' Counsel.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Very well. Defense
No,
Counsel.
thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
I hope we will be all here tomorrow morning, and we will proceed in any way tomorrow morning at 9:30. Yes, the hearing is adjourned.
All rise.